Welcome to today's Bible reading on Clubhouse, Bible study, and we're making the video to be posting on the Zoom group so that you can go see it. For now, I don't have any PowerPoints, any keynotes to be sharing. I'm working on getting those together. And so for now, we will keep on reading from the from the Blue Letter Bible, and that gives us the possibility. I'm not screen sharing because I really don't know how it works with copyright and so forth, so I avoid that. Anyhow, we're going to be reading today chapters 19 through 22 and doing some study, going a little bit deeper on things that come up for us, questions, ideas, thoughts, anything that comes up for us during this Bible study together. If you're catching the replay, feel free to send in either on Clubhouse, because I just noticed that Clubhouse is recording replays of the meetings, so that's interesting. But I have to go check if I said something I wasn't supposed to. I don't know. No, seriously. It's been a little bit of a bother because there's lots of people coming and going. This is not my house. It's not my place. So I don't have too much control of the environment, right? Anywho, but still, that's interesting. I didn't realize what that feature was. So that's another possibility for you. If you're on Clubhouse, you can catch the replays there. That said, let's just dive straight in. And if you join, whatever moment you join, you're welcome to pop in and maybe take over the Bible reading, which will be extremely helpful because my eyes are really bad, but right. So Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. So here we are seeing how Lot has this one thing in common with his uncle Abraham. He's on the lookout to do good. He's keeping an eye on the situation, and he sees these new people. He knows exactly how rotten the place is. He's not going to let them stay out on the street. He intends to keep them, to have them come to his place, feed them, let them rest, and protect them. He already knows that he's probably going to have to protect them in this case. But he has this, which is good for him. Like, he is just because he is on the lookout to be doing good to others without expecting anything in return. So that's one thing we want to be imitating. Genesis 19:4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all their people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said to him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn with us, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So here we are seeing a lot going on. Let me just check one thing, because it seems to me, Genesis chapter 19, I'm just taking my Italian Bible here. Oh, all right, okay. As I prepared these studies on the Italian Bible, so crossing over into the King James, it's kind of confusing a little bit at times. So practically, what do you think about the fact that Lot offers his daughters? Practically, he offers them up to be raped by this huge gang of men. And he does that to keep safe these foreigners. Now, that can sound really crazy. Sometimes there's situations which are just like so extreme, even especially in the days we are living on. Nowadays, we are living in a situation that's very similar, but like this kind of stuff has always existed. Sadly, I know of situations where little children have been practically forced to subject themselves to being raped in order to save their grandparents from being raped. Like all these horrific things. And that is what it was like in Sodom and Gomorrah. So when people say God was evil because he destroyed that city, but you got to think very carefully of what if this kind of stuff would happen to you? And there's a really, like with the amount of unrest that's going on in so many cities, I've got lots of people that I'm in contact with all around the world. The amount of unrest that's been going on already since 2 years now, it's skyrocketed in civilized countries. The amount of unrest, of incivility, violence, and all of this really feels pretty much like a smokescreen to be allowing chaos so that they can hide whoever it is that is allowing for this. Because if you are the governor of a city or something and you allow for this kind of unrest, of this kind of injustice, just think about those 2 people, that couple over in the States like 2 years ago, I think it was, when there was the unrests in America, where this 2 couple, they had guns and they protected themselves from the mob that broke into their land, into their territory, into their house, practically. And the fact that they were the ones being put on trial instead of prohibiting the violence, instead of actually doing something real and tangible against the violence. And I really do not care. I could not care less which side, left or right or communist or fascist side. I really couldn't care less. If you are on the side of the ones doing the violence, you are pretty much the same as all of these wicked people of Sodom and Gomorrah. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, you deserve hellfire to be raining down on you. really. I have no compassion for someone who goes out and does such horrible things to other people, just like gratuitous violence, zero compassion. The question is, what is it that you think about a situation like that? What if you found yourself in a situation like that? Would you have given up the men, or would you have given up would you have given up your guests, or would you have given up yourself and your family instead to protect them? It's the same question that comes back to that question of, when is it okay to lie? And if you were in Nazi Germany and you knew where the Jews were hiding, would you give them away, or would you protect them? Would you rather protect them with your own, at the cost of your own life, rather than allow for violence to be done, give away someone else for violence to be done to them? It's really hard-hitting. People think that the Bible is antique. Oh, the Bible is so right now. If you read through the whole thing and you compare it to what is actually going on, instead of putting it somewhere away in the past, oh yeah, well, that happened, or ascribing it to mythology. So moving forward on to Genesis 19:12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of Jehovah, and Jehovah hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for Jehovah will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. Welcome, Oliver. Oh, and he's gone, right. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, Jehovah being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, oh, not so, my Lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shewed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither before the name of the city, therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then Jehovah rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Jehovah out of the heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of those cities that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before Jehovah. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when Jehovah destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt. So that was something. What do we look like when we, to others, when we know that something crazy is going to happen, and we try to warn them, and we try to help them, and we try to save them, we try to bring them out? What do we look like? It looks like we are the ones that are crazy. Recently, I've been discussing with certain narcissists that are ever present in my life since decades now. And I've become more matter of fact, and I don't care in talking with them about certain things. Sometimes they will do or say stuff, and I'll just be like, you're saying that just to hurt me. And the last one I spoke with tried to flip the story on me and say, it's offensive that you should think that I want to offend you. I'm like, no, it's offensive. I say, yes, you're right. It's offensive that you should try to offend me and then try to pretend that I'm the one that's being offensive by pointing out that you are being offensive. So it's like this constant trying to gaslight, okay? So why is it that these men of Sodom, the fiancés of Lot's daughters, they were going to marry them? Why is it that they thought Lot was making fun? I'm not going to give you the answer. You're probably going to find it yourself. Better yet, give me the answer yourself in the comments or whatever. Usually, well, the hint is whenever you point a finger, how many fingers are pointing back at you? So that is something we really want to consider. Also, when we think that other people are mocking, are making fun, doing things, like, unless we really have a solid, grounded reason to be thinking so, right? For example, someone is constantly stealing. The moment we know that that person or someone is a chronic liar, when we know that the person is a chronic liar, it's like, yeah, this person's probably lying. Actually, you better start taking zero. You better start not believing almost anything, like really not believing anything and really weighing anything that a chronic liar says to you. It's sad. That's just the way it is. And if you are the one who is the chronic liar, you really want to start weeding that weed out of you. You want to get rid of it. You don't want to find yourself in the position of crying out, wolf, wolf, when there's really a wolf and no one comes to save you because you've been making fun all the time, right? So let's move forward now and see the end of Lot. What else happened though? So Lot is in Sodom. He gets dragged out by God's mercy. He is the only just man in the city. He gets dragged out. But still, and God even saves this small city of that same district. He saves it, Zoar. He saves it because Lot's just like too scared to go to the mountain. And God's like, okay, whatever. I told you go to the mountain. You're not going to go to the mountain. Okay, I'll let you stay there. But then Genesis 19:30, and Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain. How many times do we do that? How many times does God tell us to do one thing? We're like, no, but I can't do that, God. Let me do something smaller. We do something smaller, and then we end up doing what God says. So Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters were with him. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Why would he have feared to dwell in Zoar, knowing that Zoar belonged to that same district, knowing how the people of that district were, how the people of Zoar most likely were. And furthermore, he's the only one who escaped from Sodom. So what would the people of Zoar have thought of him? Would they possibly have blamed him for everything? Yeah. Scapegoating people has always been the way to go for most people in the world. So, Genesis 19:31, and the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine at night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus both were the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ammi. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So, why is this interesting for us? Number one, we see what happens when we fail to bring up our children in the moral guidance of God. Lot had gone to live among these wicked people. He himself despaired for the way how horrible these people were every single day. And yet he chose to stay among them instead of separate himself. And his wife most probably was one of them. And she couldn't see why they were being taken out for her. She wanted to stay there. And the daughters pretty much had no moral compass, and they did not have faith in God. They did not believe that God would provide a way. Like Abraham, he went to great lengths to do the craziest things that God told him, because he knew that God would provide a way. Whereas these people, they're like pretty much like Sarah, they provided their own way and ended up doing something pretty crazy. At least Lot didn't realize what was going on, but he was caused to sin without knowing it, right? Whereas, which is another thing we want to be wary of. We want to be very careful when we hear things. We don't want to be unwittingly turned into the means by which injustice is carried out. And the other important thing that we want to see here is that this is where Moab originates. Moab and Ammon originate from, because further down the line, there's going to be more. These people are going to be showing up more in the story. So they are relatives of the Israelites. Moving forward into Genesis chapter 20. Where is we? There we go. Genesis 21. And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. Remember Abimelech? We saw him some time back. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? He said he not unto me, she is my sister? And even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears. And the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham to him and said to him, what hast thou done unto us? What have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what sawest thou that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness which thou shalt shew unto me. At every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. And unto Sarah he said, behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes, unto all that are with thee. And with all other thus she was reproved. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. For Jehovah had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So this is an episode which very often seems to get passed off as something that happened in a very short span of time. As we see from the last verse, though, that would be Genesis 8:20, verse 18. If all the wombs of the house of Abimelech had been fast closed up, this must have happened over a span of a very long time that Sarah had stayed with Abimelech. And it must have been like over quite a span of time, like enough for them to realize, hey, nobody's getting pregnant here anymore, right? Not normal that people don't get pregnant when everything's going right, right? So the question here is whether, the question about incest. I think I saw a post recently where people are asking, how is it possible that God, is it possible that God allows for incest? Now we have to consider a few things. Now, number one, the other question was, could it not be that God created other men and women besides Adam and Eve? But the Bible doesn't say so. If the Bible doesn't say so, it's pretty obvious what the answer is. That in the case of Adam and Eve, they had daughters and their sons and daughters intermarried. And to the question of if that would not cause problems, we have to remember that they were perfect. When they were perfect, there was no problem. It's going down further. It's with the gradual loss of the perfection gene, which, by the way, I think it is oh gosh, I'm missing my words today. They're escaping me. But practically, it would be that part, would be the telomeres, I think, telomeri in Italian. Well, practically where that part, like once you're born, your skin cells are created to last, to live forever, to keep reproducing forever. But at the moment you are born, this part, I think it's the telomeres, but I'm not sure. This part stops working, and it actually starts losing, like the length of these strands, they start losing. Instead of keeping growing, they stop growing and they start shortening. It's a very interesting concept. First time I came across this concept, forgive my ignorance, was during a meeting for products based on stem cells. I'm completely against the use of stem cells. I don't care where they are made, where they are not made. I'm completely against that now. Like, the more I thought over it, I'm just like, no way. This is stuff that has been harvested. Even if it's been reproduced, the original material has been harvested from someone, some person, and I'm not messing with my genes and genomes by using stuff from other people. Everyone is free to do make their own choice this way. But anyhow, getting back to the Bible. So if you are virtually perfect, like the sons of Adam and Eve definitely were like perfect, pretty perfect in their and robust, like in their constitution, this kind of problem wouldn't have existed. The problems of deficiencies from incest, all right? This incest between Abraham and his half-wife. Later on, we will see that God will forbid this practice of marrying your half-brother, your half-sister. If the Bible says that Abraham married his half-sister, though, we can be pretty sure it was his half-sister. Why are we trying to look for other ways to make the Bible fit our narrative? We have to remember that Abraham came out of Ur of the Chaldees, where this practice was pretty common, was no problem. Okay. Furthermore, is that people who want to condemn say, oh, well, God could have not approved. Maybe we should remember that God meets us. It's not that God chooses the ones who are perfect. God makes the ones he chooses perfect. Actually, God chooses people who are pretty messed up usually. Why? Because, as the Bible says in, believe it's 2 Corinthians, it says, my power is made perfect in imperfection, in weakness. And also says that it is thanks to my power, and this is not of yourselves. Whatever you manage to accomplish is because of me, your God. so that you cannot boast. So God chooses us on purpose. He calls the people who are broken and wrong and messed up. He meets us where we're at. He looks for whatever there is in you that is good and makes that grow. So if you feel that you're not up to it, I feel like I'm not enough. I always feel like I'm not worthy enough. I always feel like I'm not qualified. I always feel all of these things, especially when talking about the Bible. I have these, on the one hand, there's things that I'm just like, no, the Bible says it, so this is it, period. On the other hand, when people say, hey, why don't you start teaching, and it's like, nah, I can't be the teacher. I can't be the head of anything. I can't, because it's not, at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, if God is going to qualify and equip, like, we start doing one thing and then God will direct our paths. So even in this case, like Abraham and Sarah, they weren't in the perfect conditions. Like, it was practically incest, right? Still, God says, I'm not going to have this child, I'm not going to exalt Ishmael, I'm going to exalt Isaac, that comes from an incest relationship. So we have to stop thinking in our human terms and think in the great terms, and start thinking, aligning our thinking to God. God is never wrong. It doesn't mean that Abraham and Sarah were always right. In fact, it says down here, she was reproved. Well, wait a minute, let's have a look at what that word actually means, because it might mean something a little bit different from what we think. That's what Bible study is, just a sec. Reproved, maybe it could mean something else. Maybe it was translated wrong. Let's see. Bing. So that would be yaka. Reprove or rebuke, correct, plead, reason, chasten, reprove or appointed, arguing. All right. To prove, to decide, to judge, to reprove, to correct, to be right. So the translation, yes, that is the right word. So Sarah is the one who was reproved. Interesting that Sarah is the one who was reproved and not Abraham. To be, let's just pop over down to Gesenius though and have a look at that one. It says, to be in the front, in the forepart, hence figuratively, to be put in the sunshine, to be in the sunshine, to be clear, to be manifest, to appear. Okay. So that is what it means. So practically this word, more than rebuke, can be seen as, so she was cleared. She was cleared of any reproof, is what it could mean. It's more likely to mean. We have to remember that the Bible has been translated. Yes, even the King James version has been translated by people who tweaked the translation in order to uphold their doctrine. One of the biggest doctrines of all time, which comes directly from Genesis, the punishment of Eve, of the woman, was what? It was that her desire would be for her toward her husband, and he would dominate her. And so, if we have to keep in mind that the Bible has been used for centuries to be bashing women, to make women look like they are at fault for everything. As what this one man at one retreat that I did, it was a subconscious programming retreat. And he was like, oh, I've always had a problem with venerating Mary because, after all, the female Eve and her sin, as she with, if it wasn't for the woman, we wouldn't be in this trouble. And he was sitting right next to me. I say, really? And what about Adam, who knew perfectly well that he was sinning? Eve was tricked. Adam was not tricked. That shut him up, and all of the women at the table applauded, thank goodness. But like constantly trying to bash a woman and make her so evil, right? First thing you want to be doing is take the word woman all over the Bible and substitute it with the word church, with the word church, congregation, whatever. Second thing, you want to really understand God's thought of it. Like even before God says to Abraham, listen to your wife. So there are things in which God says, yeah, wife knows. Man is the head, wife is the heart. So certain things, we're created to balance each other out, not for one to dominate the other, but to be on par. The man is the head, yes, but still, she is the help meet for him. So here it would seem that this was, that she was put in the clear, because the gifts that were given to, Abraham for Sarah's sake were precisely, as Abimelech said, to clear my name, like to so that everything is in the clear, is in the open. So there we go. Moving forward for the last chapter for today, we have Isaac is born. This is where it is. Genesis 21:1. And Jehovah visited Sarah as he had said, and Jehovah did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son like his old age, at the time set of which Jehovah had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son at his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast, the same day that Isaac was weaned. Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be higher with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad to drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. So here we see this whole situation going on with Agar, the bondwoman. Okay, she's the slave of Sarah, and she thought she could overcome Sarah. And then she gets beaten up and put back in her place. And then her child grows, and then she gets kicked out. What do you think? Is Sarah too narcissistic in this whole situation? Or is she seeing a problem, seeing something that's really a problem and needs to be dealt with? I mean, if you think of the one thing that we are not trained to do, nowadays we're taught to make nice, to be politically correct. We are never taught to see the pattern and accept that the pattern is what it is. We are taught to think too nice, to give people too many second chances. Agar thought she could overthrow her mistress. And now we have her son who thinks that he can overthrow the rightful heir. Same problem again. So it's important that we pay attention, like especially when we are dealing with narcissists in our life. It is so important that we see the pattern early on, and we do not give second chances. When we know that someone is being a narcissist, shows narcissistic tendencies, and I'm not talking about the DSM manual type narcissism. I'm talking about the low-grade narcissism we see everywhere, which is precisely because it's not so blatant. It is the most cancerous, weed-like kind, which is stifling all the good in the world. But when we see that happening, are we going to keep on making excuses for those people, or are we going to be like, okay, I know who you are. I know how to handle you. I know how to deal with you. You show your face once, okay. You show yourself a second time, no more games. That is one of my problems, especially when you come from a family where you've been abused all of your life. It's so hard. And when you grow up in abuse, for you, it's just normal. And instead, you have to really start creating boundaries. And the boundary, number one, you set the boundary for yourself. You don't need to inform the rest of the world of the boundary. The boundary is for yourself, for your self-respect. When you see that people, and usually these boundaries are nothing big, it's like being polite. One of my boundaries is I have zero association, close to zero association, just like the strictly necessary. But I do not become best friends with someone who mistreats a waiter. If me and you go out to dinner and you think you can berate the waiter for using plastic straw because environment and whatever your social justice warrior brings out on you, you think you can mistreat the waiter on something like that, you've already told me that you are not a good person. And that whatever your social justice missions are it's just for your own ego. And I'm not going to be your best friends with you. You got to change your way of thinking, and you got to change your way of being. I will pray for you because God can help you. And this is especially true with Christians. I don't care what level they are. I don't care if they are teachers. I don't care if they are students. I don't care what they are. If the way they show up lacks compassion, lacks understanding, and they think they can bash people, they think they can put other people in their place, sorry, no. Like, you don't even know me and you try to put me in my place? Sorry, you are not a Christian, no matter what you say. No matter how many scriptures you quote, you are no Christian. You think you can put me in my place because of whatever issue, I don't know. Because I said that Abimelech was a I don't know, whatever. Let's say I say something from the Bible, you don't like it, you want it to fit your thing. That's maybe one thing. Let's say you're the kind of Christian who doesn't believe that Sarah and Abraham were brother and sister. You want to find a way to say that they were cousins, they were far relatives or something, or maybe she was adopted. I don't care. And so you want to put me in my place, like blasting me with whatever it is. Sorry. We can have a calm discussion about something. We can have different viewpoints on certain things, but not that you try to make a public spectacle of the person you are trying to correct and then go backhandedly and post snarky Bible verses to try to get at me under my skin. I'm not going to answer you. I'm not going to look at you. And number one, number two, I'm not going to be best friends with you, because we become like who we are, like who we spend time with. So, so getting back to Hagar, God has compassion for this person who thinks that she can, like, she's arrogant and she's trying to supplant, yet still God has compassion for her and for her son, and he has promised Abraham, like, whatever we intend for bad, whatever someone has intended for bad, or even when we make mistakes and there's consequences for those mistakes, God always tries to make things right. God always finds a way to make things right again. And this is going to be so blatant when we come to certain things that are just like, what, mind blow. And just think of the two Sauls of the Bible. Whoa, it's just like so huge. It's incredible. So here, God sends in the angel to help with this and with this situation, and we will see a little bit more of Ishmael later on. So let's just read the last tidbit and then we're closed for today. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son. But according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but to today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe, I don't know how to say this word, excuse me, ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, for these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because they swear both of them. And thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba and called thereon the name of Jehovah, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. So this is interesting. Now we are, I think, at the third population. First, it was just the Canaanites. Then it was, I believe, the Pharisite. I wrote it in my notes somewhere. First, it was just the Canaanite in the land. Then it was the Canaanite and the Pharisite, and now we have the Canaanite, the Pharisite, and the Philistine. if I am correct. If I am not correct, we will see. If you find that I'm not correct, please comment. So like the population of Canaan is growing. There's more bloodlines coming into the place, into the area. What's I found interesting in this case was that there's 3 different pacts going on here. And okay, why, this is a questions that we might ask ourselves and maybe do our own research on. Why would Abraham have given, like this is from verse Genesis 21, 25 to 27 is the first well that they're talking about. And Abraham gives him sheep and oxen. And then this other one is the second well we are talking about is the one verses 28 through 31 is the second well. So why would Abraham have given these ox and sheep to Abimelech about the well that Abimelech's servant stole from him? Like Abimelech's servants steal the well from Abraham, and Abraham still gives Abimelech the sheep and the oxen. That's an interesting question mark, and I'm pretty sure it has something to do with, I'm pretty sure, I'm having a hunch that has something to do with something Jesus says further down the road. So I think that's about everything for today. And once again, feel free to join, to read, to take over the Bible reading, to comment, to bring up questions, to bring up even stuff from the previous days. And let's have an interesting, peaceable discussion to be lifting each other up in our faith towards God rather than tearing each other down. So that's all for today, and cutting out from the room in now. See you.